Alright, so everybody needs to give their attention.
Would you mind if you didn't mind just filling out these? You can just put notes just to show that I
Okay.
did it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Did y'all have a good break? It was fun. Did y'all come back to school ready to learn? No. Good. Me too. It was really hard for me to get out of bed this morning, but we have to do it, right? Alright, so up here on the board I have this word. And is anybody brave enough to try and sound it out?
It's cool.
Where do you press to restore it? I can just rewrite it.
Oh, click on it.
That's okay. We can just rewrite it.
Oh, man.
Okay, so who's brave enough to try it out? Go ahead, Meredith.
Is it all ages?
Yes. I think that was a pretty good try. Anybody else want to try? Me. Go ahead. Yeah, it's pretty tough. You want to try it? Alright, I think y'all had some good guesses. Okay, you can try it. Sure, I think that sounds awesome. So, you guys may not know how to pronounce it, but I know you guys know what it means, right?
No.
You don't know what this means? You don't know what this word is?
Something with an Indian. Hello.
Alright, I'm going to give you some helpful hints, and you guys try to figure out what it is. Okay, this word is a place. You guys all go to it. Sometimes you might not want to. How did you know that?
Because we don't watch trails.
Thanks, see. Okay, so that one was pretty easy. Well, I need one volunteer. Somebody who's a good actor or actress.
I'm good. I'm not.
Think you can try it? Come here. Okay, you guys played charades before, right?
Oh yeah.
Alright, now she's not allowed to say anything. She's going to act out a word, and you guys have to guess what it is.
So it's like charades.
Okay, this is the word she chose to act out, so go for it. Whenever you think you know what it is, you guys can holler it out.
Sure. A dog.
You guys are just so smart. She only got to do one clue. This word means dog. And this kind of language we're not really used to seeing, right? We don't really, we spell dog, D-O-G. They spell it completely different. But today we're going to be learning about...
It's like chair.
It sounds like chair.
Today we're going to learn a little about the Tuscarora Indians. And can anybody refresh my memory as to what Miss Freeman and Miss Barner, what Indian groups did they talk about when they were here? Cherokee and Lumbee. Well, the Tuscarora Indians are another group that were found in North Carolina. And before we start, I gave each one of you one of these little flip-flap books on your desk. You guys all have one? And this is where you're going to take notes. Instead of doing a graphic organizer to take notes, we're going to use a flip-flap book. So before you start, I want you guys to each label it. I have an example up here. On your first little flap, you're going to write, who are they? So you guys can go ahead and do that now. You can write it in pencil.
Do we have to?
Do you have to what? No, you don't have to. If you have a pen, you can write in pen. Yeah, these are for you. So whatever's going to help you, these are for you. These are for you're taking notes. So are they on the first flap? On the second flap, you're going to write, where do they live? On your third flap, you're going to write, what do they wear? And on your last flap, you're going to write, what do they do? And as we go along, when you hear something, when you hear who they are, who we're learning about, or where they live, you can lift up whichever flap it's going to go under, and that's where you're going to write little notes about the Tuscarora Indians, about what you learned. Yes, sir. The third one, what do they wear? And on mine, I made little pictures to help me organize it. So whenever you have time, you can draw a little picture to go along with each little flap. That can help you take notes, okay? Anybody have any questions about how to do this? Pretty simple, right? Yes, sir. Yeah, you can draw a picture right underneath each one. So with what do they wear, you can draw like a shirt or something. So as we go along, I want to see y'all writing in these. Make sure you're taking notes. So who are they? We're going to be learning about the Tuscarora Indians. The Tuscarora means hemp people. They use a plant called hemp to make a lot of their clothing. They use it to make rope. They also use it for ceremonial objects. So they were originated in North Carolina, and they lived in the coastal plains. You can find them, their settlements along the Neuse and the Cape Fear River. And today, you don't really find as many Tuscarora Indians in North Carolina. They migrated. What does migrate mean? Moved, right? They moved up to New York and Canada, and they did this because they were involved in a war called the Tuscarora War. And what happened was these colonists were coming over to their settlements in North Carolina where they already had their homes, and they were trying to settle in these same places. And what they were doing is they were trying to force the Tuscarora Indians who were already living there to become their slaves. And that wasn't fair, right? Because they lived there first. So the Tuscarora Indians decided that they would pack up and move up to New York and Canada, where they wouldn't have to worry about being slaves to the new colonists. So what language do they speak? We already saw a few of their words. Up here we have a dog. This is their word for frog, skunk, and here's how they say the words blue and green. In just a second, I have a link that, let's cross our fingers, hope it works, where you guys can actually hear this language. Because it is a lot different than what we speak and how we say these words, but that's how they talk and that's how they're used to speaking. So we're going to see if this works. Everybody cross your fingers.
YouTube doesn't work.
I think this was a link. I think that was a picture. No!
YouTube doesn't work. That's not YouTube. That is YouTube. It was like, does it go to YouTube?
It's YouTube.com.
Let's try.
I told you. Does it go to YouTube? It's UTU.de.
YouTube.
The dot makes it.
YouTube.
I'm gonna YouTube.de.
How do you minimize this? Do you know?
Hit the ESC, I think. Press escape. Escape. No, don't.
Okay. Alright, let's try and see if we can make it work.
Everybody do it. Double cross.
No, don't do a double cross.
Yes.
That's bad luck. Only one cross. Good luck. can't do double?
They do a triple.
This one is good.
I'm doing 4.
I know.
No, I'm doing 5.
I'm doing this one's legs. And
Nope, now I'm doing.
okay,
Now I'm doing 6.
Did I make sure I'm twisting my
Yeah.
Okay, I got one spoon. Twisting my tail. I feel weird. I got 6.
No! See, I told you
That's
YouTube.
YouTube.
That's not YouTube.
Go to Google and type in don't type in YouTube. We can't.
You did pop up good.
Go to Google.
Please let it go.
Animals theory. Yeah, it is. No.
Yes.
It wasn't the video that I wanted, but let's see if we can.
Cross them hands.
Come on.
At least it works.
I don't think it's going to show the video that I had on here, but I'm going to leave a note for Miss Miller, and maybe she can find it on a different site so that you guys can hear how they talk. I think this happened with Miss Freeman too, didn't it?
It happened at all of them.
Because we can't.
You don't gotta yell.
Because it ain't like the Indians.
Okay. So there's some of their words. Their pronunciation, like we said, it's kind of difficult, but I'm going to leave a note for Miss Miller, and that way she can maybe pull up the animal series video, because it's really cool, and it pronounces all these animals and colors for you. So what were their villages like? The Tuscarora Indians lived in their villages. They made circular, and they surrounded the outside of them with a palisade, which that is like a really tall fence. And what do you think some purposes were for making their village in the shape of a circle? Why would they do that? You want to take a guess? No? Yes, sir. While in their villages, you see how they're circular? All the houses are kind of facing each other. Why might they make their villages like that?
So when they have like, if they have and like people like the other Indian, and they try to fight them, they can have like something to protect them from like.
So for protection? Yes, ma'am. Is that what you were going to say?
No.
You know? That's okay. You want to take a guess? You want to think about it? Well, they made these villages like for protection, like he said, all the houses were facing each other. That way, if another Indian group was coming to break into their village, they would be able to see everything that was going on from all angles. And these tall fences also help with protection. There's a building, There was a building usually in the middle of the village, and this was where they had their meetings. Whenever big ceremonies would take place, they would go to this building that was located in the very center of the village. Their homes, they use these houses called long houses, and it's exactly what they are. There's these really long houses, and they're made out of sheets of bark and elm. And sometimes there are up to 60 people that lived in one house. They call these people a clan, which is basically another word for a family. This would be like your aunts and uncles and cousins and grandma, grandpa, all living in one house together. And today, the Tuscarora Indians only use these long houses for ceremonies. Any other time, they would live in modern houses just like we live now. So what do they wear? This is a picture of a Tuscarora Indian male. They usually wear leggings and breechcloth, which is these long flaps that are used to cover the front and back. Their shirts are made from hemp. Like they said, they were called the hemp people. So they used hemp a lot of times to make their clothing. Their headdresses were made from turkey feathers. And during war, the Tuscarora Indians would shave their heads so that they would just leave one strip of hair that was called a mohawk, which you guys have all seen those before. Huh? Yeah. And they would also paint their bodies with red, white, and black designs. You guys don't feel like you have to copy down every single thing, okay? You're just jotting down quick notes.
I can't catch it. Oh my goodness. I didn't know. Do we have to write all of them?
No, you don't have to. You just want to write a couple things down.
Underneath each short section.
Oh man.
Okay, the women, they wore wraparound skirts. They also wore leggings just like the men did. They wore overdresses and moccasins. And they would usually, with their clothing, they used a lot of beadwork and ribbons. They used to decorate their clothes. The women instead of wearing the turkey headdresses like the men did, they would wear tiaras. And the women would only cut their hair if they were mourning. So if they were sad, if someone in their village had passed away, that's when they would cut their hair, and that would show that they were in mourning. Other than that, they would leave their hair really long and sometimes would put them in braids.
Miss Miller told us this video we watched the other day about the Indians. And they, it was about like, they were talking about,
They were like,
yeah.
they were like,
It was one man over there talking, and he was showing us about the stories they told, and they were the little,
dolls and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think I have a picture of that one of those dolls in here. So what do they eat? The Tuscarora Indians lived in the coastal plain region. So what would be a benefit, if you guys think back about the coastal plain and learn about it, what would be a benefit for living in that region? Yes, sir. Huh?
Squash.
Squash. They did grow squash. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. But what would help them that's in the coastal plain region that would help them grow these crops? Who
Fish.
said it? Soil. Right. You guys remember learning that the coastal plains have really rich soil, so they could do a lot of farming there.
We don't have what they do.
Huh?
We don't have what they do.
That's okay.
I know you didn't know anything. I know about it.
that big hole out there? He didn't fall.
Sit down. Okay, so we left off saying that the coastal plains were known for its soil, and so this helped the Tuscarora Indians with their farming. They farmed corn, beans, squash, and wild berries. And last time we were here, we were talking about how this corn doesn't really look like the corn that we eat today. And what is this called?
Maize.
Right. They also hunted deer, rabbit, and they fished in nearby rivers. And this is where they got their sources of food from. Yes, sir.
Can they go, can they hunt, like, if they have a gun or an arrow, can they hunt on a boat, like, shoot?
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about that in a second. So we said that living in the coastal plains was really beneficial for their soil. What about living along these rivers? They live along the Neuse and Cape Fear River. So what would be some benefits that would help them living along rivers like that?
They can fish.
They could fish. Yes, ma'am. Anything else? What is it? Go ahead. These rivers were a great source for them to get fish, which they hunted. Also, the soil near the rivers was a little more fertile and rich, and also they could get water really close by. So the women in the village, they used these stone hearths to cook on. They didn't have ovens and stuff like we had. They also collected firewood. They planted crops. They sewed clothing which they made out of deer skin. And they also made necklaces out of wampum. And what this is they would use these dried or really hard seashells, and they would make them into beads. And this is what they would create, these long necklaces like that. The men in the village made handmade bows and arrows, which they would use for hunting. Have you guys ever found like a little arrowhead out the woods before? They would make these arrows and put them at the end of spears, and when they were in canoes, this is how they would fish. They didn't have fishing poles. They made these arrows and would, I guess, stab the fish in the river. What? They hunted animals and they fished, and they also made canoes from tree chunks, which they used to go from place to place to trade goods. And the men, when they were fishing, sometimes they would often build these fires near the river, which the light would attract fish, and so all the fish would come closer to where these fires were, and it made them easier to see the fish, and it made them easier to catch them.
Okay, I can help you.
So what did the children do? The children in the Tuscarora village, they often had a lot of chores to do, probably more chores than you guys are used to doing. They would help plant crops and stuff. They would help get the crops together. The boys would often go hunting with their fathers. And girls would make these corn husk dolls, which are these dolls made out of, corn husks. And here's a picture of them. So they had to kind of make their own toys and make their own entertainment.
Can you go back to what the man
I need to go back to what?
I need children.
Okay. Y'all have all this?
No.
Over there. Yeah.
not with,
What they wear.
I don't got what they wear.
Alright, there you go. So he said that men wore leggings and breech cloth, shirts made from hemp, headdresses that they made out of turkey feathers. They would shave their hair like a mohawk during times of war, and they painted their bodies red, white, and black with designs. Remember I said you don't have to copy down everything, you just jot down a couple notes.
I'm writing, but like I need information too.
I need what
And like I said, they would only cut their hair when it was time of mourning, when they were going through mourning.
Like if a friend died.
Yeah, like if a friend or someone in the village passed away, something that made them sad, that's when they would cut their hair. Just that symbolized that they were mourning. Yes, sir.
What if would they cut the person's hair that died too?
I don't think that they cut their hair. It was just the people who were sad about it. That's when they would cut their own hair.
Can we put what did they eat on there?
You can put that under like what did they do? Because it talks about them farming and hunting.
I go hunting with mom.
Do you? Very cool. Did y'all know what women do?
No. I do. Do we post it right there?
What do they, but I put, what are they, who are they, what do they do?
Did you draw? Did you write anything underneath here? You were drawing them? Well, whatever helps you so you can look back and remember.
I want to know why do men that thing?
All I have is one and the girl. Who are they?
I need who they
I want to
know.
know why.
I need who they know.
What do men do? Oh, we said they made handmade bows and arrows, they hunted animals and fish, and they made canoes from tree trunks, which they used to travel to trade goods. We'll go back. I'll go back to the beginning so you guys can all get that, because I know that's a hard word to spell. Yes, sir. Really? Do you think it was like a handmade one, like an Indian made? Nothing like that? The women help them. The women help them by cooking. They help them by farming. When the men are out hunting all these animals, the women are back planting seeds, growing crops, cooking.
I did all of it. Did they go hunt too?
I guess the women could go hunting, but that wasn't really known for women to do. Women weren't really hunters. It was more of a man's thing to do.
Who are they?
We'll go after we get done with the lesson. If you guys need some help writing some more stuff down, we can do that. But we kind of need to move on.
Hold on, I need the children.
You need the children. Yes.
Andre, what did they do? Can we put the tree?
Yes.
Please don't tell me that to do a test.
No, you're not going to do a test. Okay, so we learned a little bit about the Tuscarora Indians and some of their traditions. Well, one thing that they also did was storytelling. And the Tuscarora Indians would tell these stories, often called legends, that they would pass down throughout the village from generation to generation. And they used these stories for many reasons. They would use them for entertainment. It would be a fun thing to do. Everyone would gather together and tell stories. But they also used them to explain things. And I passed it out to you each a story, a Tuscarora legend that was used in the Tuscarora tradition. Okay, so have you guys ever heard of a legend? What is it? What is a legend? Go ahead, finish what you were saying. Pass it down from generation to generation? Yes, ma'am. Do you have an idea? Oh, you need one. Anybody else want to take a guess about what a legend is? Something that's not real? Right. Oftentimes, legends are these stories. They usually have some kind of crazy stuff happen. They usually have magic in them. But they were used to explain why things are the way they are, why things happen. And they're passed down throughout the village. Kind of like ghost stories, right? So this one is called the Great Father Mosquito. And while we're reading, I want you guys to think about why the Tuscarora Indians, why would they write this story, or why would they tell this legend and pass it down? So I'm going to read this out loud, and you guys pay attention to some of the elements that it has in there that would make the story a legend, okay? One time there lived a giant mosquito. He was bigger than a bear and more terrifying. When he flew through the air, the sun couldn't be seen, and it became dark as night. The zooming of his wings was wilder than a storm. And when he was hungry, he would fly into a camp and carry off a person or two and pick their bones clean. Again and again, the warriors tried to destroy the wild beast, but their arrows fell off him like dewdrops off a leaf. They did not know what to do. So the chief and the medicine men in the tribe ordered a big meeting to pray to the Creator to help them destroy the monster mosquito. They burned great fires, and they sang and they danced, and then they prayed. Bat and Spider heard their loud cry for help and decided to see what they could do. Bat came down from the sky looking for the monster to do battle with him and destroy him, and Spider spun a huge web to try and catch him. The great mosquito heard this, and he knew he could not beat Bat, so he decided to run away. He flew and he flew and he flew so fast no one could see him. He was faster than lightning. The only sound was the wild zooming of his wings through the air, but Bat was after him just as fast. The giant monster flew around lakes, over rivers, and over mountains toward the east. Bat kept after him, never tiring. Swiftly and wildly, at the speed of eagles, the monster flew towards the ocean, and there Bat reached him. When sun was going down in a red mist at the end of the sky, the great monster came to the large lakes of the east. He turned to look and saw the bat was coming nearer as he did. As he did this, he flew right into Spider's huge web. The battle was short, and the monster mosquito was destroyed. His blood splattered and flew in all directions. And a strange thing happened. From the blood were born small mosquitoes with sharp stingers. No sooner were they born than they flew in all directions and they attacked all animals without prejudice. These small mosquitoes with the sharp stingers multiplied 1,000-fold. It happened long ago, but to this day we have thousands of mosquitoes with sharp stingers. Bat still hunts them every night, and Spider still spins a web to catch them. So why do you think these Tuscarora Indians told this legend? What was their purpose for it?
To tell why a lot of
Why there are a lot of mosquitoes.
Right. This legend was, do we really think this giant great mosquito formed and there's this huge, they're all after this huge mosquito that was bigger than a bear? No, that probably didn't happen. But this story was what they used to explain why we have mosquitoes. Why we have these tiny mosquitoes flying around that, you know, suck on your blood and get animals and bite you. So that was their reasoning behind this. Did you have a question? What is it?
how did they kill an animal that's just on the and then get the blood? How did they kill them? Like, they got a lot of blood in their body.
Well, this was just a legend, like we said. A lot of times in a legend, the events that happen aren't really true. We can tell that by the story. What were some things in the story that you know could never happen in real life? Can you guys name a few? You can look back. Yes, sir.
Usually, if you get bit by a mosquito, somebody can like just come on you trying to hit. But they did like dancing and praying.
They danced and prayed. Yeah, mosquitoes aren't usually these giant monsters. Usually you can find some big ones, but they're about that big. Yes, ma'am. Did you have another one? Yes, sir. The giant spider was chasing it. Yeah, that normally.
No, it was the bat.
There was a giant bat chasing it.
The bat was chasing a mosquito, couldn't take you.
Right, a mosquito probably couldn't pick me up and eat me, right? Well, do what? Well, today you guys are all going to be practicing writing your own legends, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And you guys aren't going to do it. We're not going to write it on a piece of paper because we're going to make this fun. So what you're going to do is you're all going to pick a topic. My topic topic that I chose to write one about was the sun. And each of you are going to get a long white sheet of paper. It's going to be like a headdress, because the Tuscarora Indians, they would wear these turkey headdresses, right? So I chose to write a legend about the sun. And I'm going to read you what I wrote. And you guys are going to write your story on these turkey feathers.
Then we're going to put them on that.
Okay, so I'm going to read you the story that I wrote to kind of give you an example. And I don't expect you guys to write something as long as this, because this is really long. If you guys can write just a few sentences, that's awesome. So once there lived Owl, Bear, and Fox. The three of them lived together in a huge, dark forest. Day and night were the same. They had no light. Owl complained, "I can't see to hunt tiny insects." Bear complained, "I keep running into trees and tripping over rocks." Fox complained that he couldn't sneak up on his prey if he couldn't see them. They decided they would build a great fire. Owl and Fox could finally see to hunt and eat, and Bear could walk peacefully. When they were full, they went to blow the fire out. All three blew so hard at the same time that the fire blew right off the ground and went into the sky. And this is why we have sun. See? That was pretty simple, right? So each of you take a second to think of some things that we can write a legend about. You guys want to name some together to kind of give you some ideas?
Baseball.
Baseball. Why do we have baseball? What was that? Dogs? Anything else? Yes, sir.
We'll say something like
You want to take some time to think about it? We can come back to you whenever you're ready. The ocean. That would be a fun one. Correct. Another good one, and that's taking it back to what you learned about the coastal plain region. Why dogs hate cats? Why the river keeps moving. You guys have a bunch of great ideas. So take some time. Take some time before you start writing to think about what you want to write about and why you think that it happened. Like mine, I wrote about the sun, and we have sun because they made a great fire so they could hunt and see the animals. And then they blew so hard that it blew into the air. So you guys take some time to brainstorm a couple ideas while I'm passing this out, okay? You're welcome. You don't need to cut them because I've already cut them for you. If you need to cut, yeah, they'll fit your head. Because if they can fit my head, they'll fit your head. You want to do what? Sure. What do you do? Football?
One day, someone got bored.
That's a good one.
Like the story that I wrote.
Bracelets.
Hold on. You guys need to focus on writing first before you draw.
Can we write our topic
Darren.
Whenever you guys come up with a topic, you can write it right in the center of your headdress, okay?
You gotta write it
Because
first.
I don't have enough room for that.
Does everybody have
You have to
one?
write it first. She gonna give you some feathers.
Sorry.
You want us to go and do this?
Whenever you guys have thought of a topic, you can write it right in the center of the headdress. Okay, everybody, listen up. Think about what you want to write first. Write it in the center. I'll get you one. Right in the center of your headdress, okay? Next, I'm going to pass out these feathers to you. And this is where you're going to write your story. Just like I wrote mine, you're going to write them. I'll give you each about 3 or 4. And that's where you write your story. Then when you go to glue them on, make sure that they're in order so that your story flows and makes sense. After you write your story, if you have extra time, that's when you can take some time to color and decorate your headdress, okay? Do you want to help me pass these out?
Can I help you?
I only need one helper. Thank you, though.
Daddy.
Try to mix them
Okay, ocean. Ocean.
That's what I want to do.
Don't tell me information. I know.
I was thinking about the water.
The Carolina Plain.
Hey, I'm doing that.
What is the Georgia team name? That the college Georgia team?
Basketball?
No, football.
I know Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is the basketball team.
Yeah, if you want to staple it, you can, but after you guys get done, I can come around and help you glue, or pass out some glue. Is it the Georgia Bulldogs?
Oh yeah,
You need one. I need to get you one. If you guys need some more to finish writing your story on, if you don't have enough, just let me know and I got some extra ones. You can make. Philadelphia. Alright. If you guys need some help writing your stories, just let me know and I can come by and help you, okay? You want to help me on the topic? Alright. Yeah, that'd be a cool one because dragons are already pretty cool. So you can think of something to do with dragons. You can talk about that in your story. Maybe something happened in the United States and the men have fly off these other balloons and they can return. I was trying to get you out of writing.